I've had people on here that like really, they really enjoyed getting their vaccine, but they have the capacity to realize that it's not going to do it alone.
Right.
And that's, I mean, and that's, I think that's where I just want to preface that that's where we're coming from. So yeah, colostrum. Do you want to tell everyone about the transfer factors and what the vibe is with them?
Yeah. So look, as I understand, it's peptides transferred from bovine or chicken sources, mostly bovine, from what I understand. That when transferred over to a human host in this case, I guess does transfer the immunological weaponry and memory that the source contained. So that therefore, when the host is then exposed to different antigens, it has a much stronger chance of dealing with it effectively. But in addition to the anti-pathogenic action of it, it's more also about being used long term for immune regulation, and that's a big piece. I think that gets overlooked too, is the regulation of the immune system is what's important here, because it's not just, as I said earlier, about the antibodies or one type of cell. The regulation is what's missing. So we kind of zoom out from the COVID discussion and just talk about the fact that in today's kind of society, in contemporary society, a lot of people, by and large, have dysregulated immune systems. And that comes back down to a whole heap of, factors which we can get into. But I always collectively refer that as to like antigenic load. What's someone's antigenic load like? What does that mean? Well, it means what's pissing off someone's immune system, what's causing their immune system to create havoc and inflammation and and collateral damage to their own ecosystem. And that can be dietary proteins coming through a leaky gut, that can be parasites, that can be different viruses and stealth infections, it can be weakened nutritional status, it can be stress, altered gut microbiome. So that kind of conversation is where I'm at the moment, in terms of what can we also use so that when we do encounter a really gnarly infection, that our immune system just doesn't absolutely, blow a fuse.
So you'd be wanting, so basically you're in this task, say you're in this task force and they're like, listen, over the next 5-10 years, we want the population of all Australians to be really fortified so we can slow down the spread of this thing. And so you'd have to start speculating in the beginning, but because the immune system's evolved, you're speculating in a general way, but in a way that we know is inevitably involved here. Yeah. You'd be wanting to test people for like Epstein-Barr, see if there's any stealth infection, or in that context, parasitic load. You want to be looking at their, leaky gut, so on and so forth, to make sure that they aren't walking around with something that, perhaps is symptomatic and perhaps not, perhaps it's asymptomatic. Just because it's asymptomatic doesn't mean it's not going to cause harm to, in this instance, cause harm to everyone else, because you've got stealth infections that you're not looking at. So you'd want to be making sure that people have the opportunity to test for those things, so that then if they did get sick, their immune system had the chance to catch on to it and they wouldn't become a vector themselves.
Correct. But like in doing all that, this is the whole thing. That takes time, that takes resources, it takes patience, it takes more than spending 7 minutes with a patient in a doctor's office, right? So you can already see how nuanced it is. And then when you look at it like that, it's like, well, of course, the powers that be want a quick fix. They want a quick intervention that they can quickly roll out. But it's a silly assumption to sort of, present that's going to be a long-term solution, because it ain't. The data's already showing that it isn't. If we model off other countries where they have, high vaccination rates and yet high cases, surely that's enough, to kind of suggest that, well, maybe the model that we have used isn't working and we've got to go back to the drawing board. So, for me, being naturopathically trained, and having, full disclaimer, having gone through all this myself 10, 12 years ago, even before I became a naturopath and decided to study. I discovered all this over time. And I remember there was a time when, I learned about the interleukins and the T helper cells and all of that type of thing, and got super obsessed about how herbal medicine and botanicals and everything influenced that, because I thought, well, if we can influence these different arms of immunity, then we've got a chance against autoimmune disease, allergies, parasites, immune deficiency, and all those things. And I'm still as passionate as I was then, if not more. So that's kind of where a lot of my work lies as a practitioner, is dealing with, I see all sorts of things, of course, but I see a lot of those people that were kind of like me, really caught in that stealth infection pattern where their immune systems just have become dysregulated.
Mm.
Yeah, and it's not a quick fix. That's what I mean. Like, it takes a lot of time and diligence and effort and money too. You know, it's true that the functional testing and to get all that, you know, underway isn't easy, and it's not cheap.
No, and you can see is like it's that not being subsidized and that not being
Exactly.
covered. You can see the the not to say the word, but you can see the agenda behind it.
That's right.
Like, I mean, if you're a smart person and you follow the science, you can see the science lead you back to this place inevitably.